Okay, so I'm going to try to talk, say this in like 15 minutes. Um, Honestly, I don't even know where to start. I have had uh, the, I don't even know where to start because I know that when I'm trying to tell to people or when I'm trying to talk to people, um, the only people I feel comfortable talking to at times are Christians or very spiritual people because they've either, they've either been through something very similar or uh, they at least understand something I'm saying. Because if I when I'm trying to explain to people certain things, I have a tendency to think where I was 5 years ago and most of my life, where I'd kind of be like, like, oh, this person's this person's crazy or this person's, so I'm trying to think of how I would talk to me 5 years ago, and even then would I believe it? And so I'm just gonna this might not even be my first attempt, but so I decided to start back from when I was in an accident when I was really young, and because because what happened was I I was not injured. My car was totaled. I even had little marks on my clothes and on my skin where the glass it was hit so hard. The glass, how they break off into little squares, had hit me through my clothes, and there was pockets of blood on my clothes, but um, not injured. You could see where I nailed the windshield. Not injured. No stitches. No nothing. And when I came conscious, although I guess I was coming in and out of consciousness, in the hospital, I was still in the emergency room, and I woke up very clear headed, sat up, even if I was in and out of consciousness, and was, you, I know, so here's the first thing is skeptics are going to be like, well, yeah, because your chemicals in your system, your endorphins are going off, and like, again, I'm not injured, but they're going to say it's all this chemical stuff. And this wasn't chemical because a chemical is like when you're drinking or when you have your coffee or when you have tea or a lot of caffeine or sugar, your body feels different when it's a chemical reaction. This did not feel like a chemical reaction at all. um, I was at complete peace. I was I that's why I'm touchy when I say euphoric. I don't want to say euphoric because then people will be like, "Oh, well, like you're high, like that's chemical." No, no, this is different. This was a state of rest and peace and joy and completeness, and everything was perfect and everything was going to be okay. And just this happiness, this joy, and I also was unnaturally not shy. I was painfully shy most of my life, and I was also very, I don't want to say flirtatious, but I was very, very nice to the ER people. And anyway, I don't want to take up too much time with this. You just need to understand that the reason why I know it also wasn't chemicals because as soon as I was given some stuff that belonged to me. I did not recognize where I worked. I didn't recognize anything, and I was looking through some stuff, and I took something that was something that I believed. Okay, this is what I want to get to is I believed there was ideas and there was history attached to objects at this thing, and I'm trying to not be too specific with you. Just I want to be very general because I want you to understand the importance of what I'm trying to say, which is I grabbed it, and when I realized what it was right away, all of my beliefs, what I remembered, who I was. I didn't still remember where I worked, but because before that I didn't even know who I was. Like, I was pulling things out going like, oh, is this mine? And I hope I don't find anything illegal in here, because I honestly didn't even know if I was like a criminal. I didn't. And um and to make a long story short, when I took back on the reality of my personality, of who I was, it was like, the best way I can explain it was like a veil. A veil came over me that was the identity I was took on, which was me. I'm trying to pick words that so you can understand my confusion at the state, but not just confusion. It was an immediate, like, I want to say, a voice in my head of, I'm the one responsible for the difference. It was like a mass. I was back into, like, I'll share with you, a mass depression, and I just went right back into it. And when I was very conscious of it being shown at the time that I was not that, I was what I was before. I was not those things. But of course, me still being very young and childlike, I was be relatively young and not getting it. I was like, oh, all I wanted was to feel that again. All I wanted was, that was my ultimate goal in life, was going to be, I can find that happiness, I can find that joy, that peace, that tranquility, that's it. I'm going to find that again. But I was still, I was me again. I was still dealing with the same memories. I was still dealing with the same judgments. I was still dealing with the same, I took on all my same old beliefs that you grow up with that aren't true. I was still not in a state of forgiveness. I was very angry still at people being ridiculous, and like I said, just not giving up the wanting to judge others and wanting to be in a state of not forgiveness. Let's just put it that way. And I didn't even think that I should be asking them to forgive me and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, let's cut to the chase. So I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to go into all the little details. I can do that in another video. I just think I'm trying to keep this under 15 minutes, and I think I'm going to run out of time. So I want to jump to basically where I am now, but okay, so how I found that. Okay, so I came across a book. Off and on, I dabbled in going to churches and things like that because I knew something was missing. And I thought it was something spiritual. And there's only a few cases where I've ever met somebody where I'm like, what, oh my gosh, I'm sorry that I'm feeling crunched for time, but to cut to the chase, I, through a book, that had quoted the Bible several times, gave me the urge to actually go find a Bible. I had one, but it wasn't in my possession because I didn't read it, and it was passed down through family, so I didn't have it on me. And I'm like, I need to find a Bible, so I went to church, found a Bible. I knew there's actually stories behind that as far as exactly why I chose that church, blah blah. But I'm going to get to the chase, which is, there's just so much to talk about. I don't know how I can fit it all into one little video, so I'm going to have some other videos maybe. To make a long story short, there were specific things in the Bible that, or if you're even, I'm sure in other spiritual literature, there's very specific things that are written that nailed it on the head, bam, 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 and which, I can tell you more specific stories that I realized looking back over my whole life. I know you can say that you see patterns because you're looking for them. That's why I have to tell you the actual individual specific stories, because then even you're going to go, oh, what are the odds of that? Because that's completely bizarre. Yeah, when you start to actually see and you start to say, this world is real, not the world we live in, spirituality, God, Jesus Christ, this is so real. And when you were slapped across the face with it, and then you realize, oh my gosh, that time I was in that car accident. And this is what he meant by lean on me. And this is what he meant by follow me. That you're so euphoric. And I'm not on any drugs. And I'm not. That's why I know it's not chemical. This is how much you realize how much he loves you. And throughout the Bible, there are passages and quotes of what he does for his people and to protect people and how much he loves people. And then ultimately I'm going to take you right to the New Testament, because history is history, right? But what Jesus did, what he was teaching his disciples to do, what he was saying, key things he was saying, and even just the one big thing that God in general says, which is, they'll know the lost because I'll write it on their hearts. Things that I never even knew were in the Bible. I wish I could be more specific for you in such a short period of time. But what I did was, when I had read the first book and before I had found this church, I had actually prayed about it. I guess you call it praying. Asked directly. Tested him. I shouldn't say I tested him. I didn't test the Lord. But maybe it was. I asked very specific things. There could be no doubt specific things. And for things. I was in that stage of, oh, well, I'm just going to ask for this and I'm going to ask for that. And I not only was getting them, there was no doubt. There was no doubt. And I know people can say, oh, don't mess with things like that because it can be evil. Trying to manipulate you, keep you distracted, and giving you these things, dark spirits or whatever, and dark angels, and I'm hearing more and more of this, but I will tell you I don't believe it was those things, because as Jesus said, why would the devil cast out demons? Why would something encourage you and bring you into this and answer you so directly and so clearly that there's no doubt in your heart anymore? Not only is there a God, he loves you so, so much, but that he's willing to intercede and to help you, and all you need to do is love him and ask. And there's a love there that you will never have to fill ever again in your life. Like through most of my life, I had this hole. Didn't know that he belonged there. I was always trying to fill it with other things. Like boys or dating or having kids, and just trying to never feeling right, and always being judgmental and not forgiving, and once you just give all that up, like you just give it up, and it does take practice, and you practice all the time. There's constantly, I'm trying to not be triggered, but it's easier and easier and easier, and I just got to rest in Jesus and remember his words and his teachings, and you go through the Bible for his teachings and more of them, and to really try to think of yourself as following him as a disciple, and what he was teaching his disciples. And a whole other thing onto that, as far as some of the specific things he was teaching his disciples, like about healing, and to do what he does, and very key things that he was saying. Again, read the New Testament, read it thoroughly. Read it, and seek until you find. The key is to seek it until you find him, and I just want everybody in the world to feel like this. Seek until you find, guys. I will do some other videos. I was writing a book about it because there's just so much. It's unbelievable. I mean, it really, at first when you're on the outside and you'd think, oh, these people are crazy, this stuff doesn't happen, or it's just a coincidence. There's coincidence, and then there's just complete mathematical improbability. I'm telling you that. Anyway, I'm out of time. Thanks. Bye.